Happy New Year. The audio quality is going to suck so bad because it's New Year's Eve and we live in the Philippines, so it is Filipino belief that you have to make loud noises to drive the spirits away. That's why there's a bunch of people making loud noises outside. And we live right next to the main road, so there's a lot of vehicles that's going to be making their untimely debut in this intro. Imagine this. You're stuck in line for 20 hours, waiting for your chance to board a ship. And when you manage to board said ship, that ship almost collides with a different vessel. Now, apparently, that's a normal thing that happens at sea, but can you blame me? I was very delirious by that point. I just wanted to get home. But why did I get stuck in the line in the first place? Yeah, that's because I went home during the Christmas rush because I spent the last 2 weeks of my life hyperfixating on this painting so that I could come home on time. Hello, fellow procrastinators of the world. I'm back. Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, and Happy New Year. Or if not, Happy Holidays, or I hope you're having a nice vacation nonetheless. See this Christmas tree? That's there to distract you while I lore dump to you about this painting. So you guys remember my one uncle, right? My uncle, who's also my dentist, he asked me to paint this painting for him as a commission way back. And I initially wanted to turn it down because in between thesis and graduation and conventions, I was too busy to handle it. But he did say he was going to be really patient and he was willing to wait until December. Now, I don't want to call myself a do tomorrow kind of person, but yeah, about that. My uncle wanted me to paint a naturescape or a cityscape and hide a tooth somewhere there as an optical illusion because he is a dentist and this painting is supposed to be for his clinic. But eventually I did finish the painting and I went home, and because of the Christmas rush, my journey that was supposed to take 6 hours got stretched to 33. It was a journey. Oh boy, it was a journey. And of course I'm going to make a video about it, so here we are. Let's go back in time to December 6, 2024. I did say I procrastinated this painting really hard. My painting journey starts not with me painting, but with a trip to a print shop on my campus where I reunited with one of my friends from art school completely by accident. That's Nick. Hi, Nick.
Sa lahat yun. Siyempre yung binigay sa akin yung safe for work yung nasa ibabaw.
Actually,
I then proceeded to leave the campus, and I kid you not, the commute from Quezon City, where my campus was, to Manila, where I planned to find inspiration for this project, took 2 whole hours. It usually only took me 45 minutes, but that's December traffic for you. I did see some interesting sights though, like this Jollibee that's more Christmas light than fast food restaurant. It was single-handedly raising the light pollution levels of Metro Manila with how much of a fire hazard it was being. Eventually, I did reach Lawton and the sun has long set by then, which was perfect for what I had in mind. I walked a bit in one of the sketchier parts of Manila to get to my destination. The Pasig River Esplanade. It was my first time going to that part of Manila, and I've seen photos of it online and I figured it would make for a really good painting subject. But I wasn't about to just download some photo found online and paint it, so I had to see it for myself. First impressions. It surprisingly didn't stink at all, which sort of shocked me because this was the Pasig River. It was supposed to stink, but there's really no stench at all. It's also very, very picturesque. Like, okay, sure, it's a bit boring because it's just a place you walk on and there aren't any activities to participate in. But if you want the calming scenery to help internalize your feelings, or if you want somewhere interesting to take photos with your friends at, I think this place would do very nicely for you. I tried taking my first few photos at around 7:30 p.m., but bear in mind I haven't had dinner yet by then, so the photos I took weren't very good because I was so hungry. So I walked around and found the location along the Esplanade that housed a bunch of food stalls. I ordered dinner from this Mexican-inspired store because we have the same store on campus and I already knew how the food tasted like. While ordering, I thought the guy running it looked quite familiar.
Bali 220. 210.
Tapos po, Sprite. Medyo weird kong tanong, pero nagtrabaho po ba kayo sa branch ng UP?
Yes.
Okay, naalala ko po kayo.
For dinner that night, I got a chipotle bowl which tasted great, and some quesadillas, which unfortunately tasted like a sweaty shirt. It only cost me 225 pesos in total though, which was way less than if I had a measly cheesecake slice from a bespoke cafe. Invigorated by my meal, I took more photos, and considering my camera was not the best, after all I only have kit lens on, they mostly turned out grainy as hell. But since this was for a painting project, I was more concerned with the composition than the colors in the photo. I think I took a bunch of interesting ones though. I then walked in that sketchy place of Manila again. This was the underpass. It looked like some place out of a horror film, if I do say so myself. It was kind of scary. And luckily enough, the trains were still running on my way home and I got home safely. So that was day 1. The morning of day 2 found me not in front of my painting easel, but on my way to a Scam Villain self-saving system cup sleeve event. I brought my Shizen standee with me because why the hell not? I yeeted him into the back of a 6-seater car while my cousin and I sat at the front, and oh, would you look at that? I made that. Wow, oh my god, I also drew that. That's Kla. She organized the whole thing, and the standee came from her 2 years ago, but I won it when she raffled it away, and it had been living in my house ever since. And this is my friend Deuce. I didn't know why she did that, but I'm glad she did. The event was great fun, as with most cup sleeve events I've gone to. Finally, day 3 came. Yeah, I couldn't procrastinate this painting any further. Just kidding, I started painting 3 whole days after the event. It was fairly straightforward. I got my canvas out, I laid it on my table. I did 1 inch by 1 inch grids this time because ain't no way I was going to freehand any of these. And to absolutely no one's surprise but my own, using a ruler on the table is far easier than using a ruler with the canvas propped up on your easel. Huh. Who would have thought? Next, I sketched the entire thing. I would say the set of steps that came after this was a harder endeavor than this part, but golly! This was so mind-numbingly boring. There were also some pencil-related incidents on the way, but I suppose that's just a part of being an artist. Eventually, I managed to sketch everything out. Well, not really everything, just the most important parts. I sprayed everything with fixative so the sketch wouldn't smudge when I stained the canvas, and then I stained the canvas with some raw sienna. I limited my color to these couple of colors because I thought they were going to give me the range of colors I needed on this project, and I finally started painting. Because I was working with acrylics, which dry crazy fast, I didn't do the conventional way of painting, which was to focus on one area at a time. No! Instead, I color vomited all over the canvas. I sped through blocking out the colors for some of the major shapes of the piece to establish where everything was, and to ensure that my colors were as coherent as possible. Not gonna lie, this method of painting gave me a lot of problems later, but I finished the painting on time, spoiler alert, so I'm gonna forget all of the suffering I endured during this project and use this method again in the future project probably. 'Cause I am an idiot. It looked like a 4th grader made it by the end of the blocking process, but it was something I could work with. The days after that were dedicated to rendering the painting one section at a time, starting with the lampposts, which I considered to be the focal point of the piece. Painting these took a while because I didn't have a brush thin enough to do detail work, and the unrendered background kept on fooling me into thinking that I was barely making any progress. Which, to be fair, I was, considering how little work I've done to the painting thus far. But with a fair amount of stubbornness, I just went for it. They looked sort of okay by the time I was done, so you know what? Hell yeah! Next came my biggest enemy in this painting. The godforsaken banisters. I hated every single minute of painting them. I was so frustrated because no matter how many colors I mixed or how intensely I looked at my reference photos, I simply could not replicate what I was seeing. I had no less than 3 whole breakdowns just trying to get this one piece of architecture right. My inability to lock in and concentrate was one of the contributors? Wow, English. My inability to lock in and concentrate was one of the contributors to my frustration, but I figured the bigger cause was my lack of proper brushes. So the next day, I did what I had to do. After a bunch of errands, of course. The next morning, I woke up early, got breakfast, rode the train, and went to Cavite. My niece was getting baptized that day, and on the van to Bacoor, where the air conditioning smelled like fabric softener, I did the most diabolical thing a Filipino could do in a closed vehicle. It smelled even better in there afterwards, let's just say that. So I went to the church, watched my niece get doused in holy water,
And I found out, I can't make this up, that one of the other kids being baptized is named Dan COVID. Why would you, as a parent, name your kid after a global pandemic? That's like an open invitation for bullying. It's like me walking around introducing myself as the Spanish influenza, like,
That's messed up. Filipino naming conventions, am I right? But moving on. The food was great. I ate a lot. I had 3 whole servings of lechon because what's a Filipino celebration without a bit of lechon? And then I went back to Metro Manila and I could finally get started on fixing my painting problem. Unfortunately, the biggest mall closest to where I live didn't have a dedicated art store like, oh my god, brushes! Just kidding, it's actually modeling clay, you dummy. So I couldn't find any of the thin fine art brushes that you could buy per brush and not per set. And at first, I considered buying this set for that brush alone because I thought the tip was thin enough for me to work with. That was until I checked the price.
Oh my good god.
And there's no way in absolute hell I'd spend that much for a bunch of other brushes I didn't even need. So I browsed through the other aisles hoping to find kids' watercolor brushes when I finally hit the jackpot.
Ain't gonna wait. No, I'm not the accused of shoplifting. Ain't no way. My brick.
That brush set ended up being my key to victory. I immediately went back to work, and by immediately I meant the day after, not after I got home. Using my new brushes, I tried to fix the banisters as much as I could. They were still pretty lopsided after everything, but I made peace with it. I also painted in some of the people by the railing. I eventually had enough of rendering the left side of the painting after a while, so I set my sights on painting the water on the right side of the painting this time. How many times did I say painting in that sentence? Which I thought helped bring the painting together. Oh, that's another one. And yeah, it felt like I was finally fixing how messy looking it was. It also helped a lot that the water was mostly just straight up one dark color with a bunch of wave detailing on top. And yeah, adding the white dots with my detail brush was very satisfying. I wish I had a counter for this because there were a lot of white dots. Like, maybe they reached the hundreds by the time I was done. Next, the bridge. Painting the bridge properly was a struggle, not because of how it looked like structurally, but more so because the yellow I had on hand was far too cool-toned. So cool-toned, in fact, that it looked closer to green than yellow when painted surrounded by all these blues and oranges. But my mother didn't raise a quitter, so I pre-mixed my yellow with some cadmium red light hue, ended up with a bunch of mac and cheese sauce looking paint, which incidentally was my main meal of choice during the 2 weeks I struggled with this project, and got back to work. My paints weren't high flow enough to do straight lines cleanly, nor did I prime my canvas with some gesso and sanded it properly to get rid of the texture. Fake fine art painter, I know. So I had my palette knife do the painting for me. That was the evening of the 19th, and on the morning of the 20th, I woke up to this. Okay, time to get back to work. Ow, it hurts. Everything hurts. Hello, I'm back. It is almost 11 o'clock and I just got out of the shower and this is how the painting's looking like. It's not coming along nicely, but it's coming along. It's looking like something. And this is how my paint palette is looking like right now. It's a mess, which pretty much sums up my mental state in the past few days. I've had several breakdowns. Today is the 20th. And I'm scheduled to go home on the 22nd in the evening, which means I have roughly 48 hours to finish everything. And I think I can make it. I just need to finish the bridge, finish the building, the lights in the background, and maybe render the people a bit more. It realistically can be done within that time frame, but I'm hoping that I can finish this by tomorrow evening, at the very least. So by the time the 22nd comes around, the varnish would have dried and I would be able to have this delivered to my client in the morning. For now though, I need to run to the grocery store and buy some fabric softener because I do have a bunch of laundry piled up and I kind of need to do those before I go home so that I don't need to deal with them when I get back. And also because the weather outside is not very good, which means it might take a while for my laundry to dry properly. So yeah, I mean, it's one way to procrastinate even further. And God knows that's the one thing I'm good at. Okay, time for me to go. I ate some cheap ramen, cheap gyoza, got my fabric softener, and went back to work. I used the same palette knife technique to color my bridge. And painting this one section on the upper right here, took 2 hours. It's 2.5 buildings. And even after 2 hours, it looked like poop, but anyway. I plotted down the rest of the lights, fixed up the sky, painted those buildings, added more lights, added some finishing details, and I'm done. On the morning of December 22, which was when I was scheduled to go home, I wrapped up the painting in some paper for shipping. Don't worry, I know it's not the right way to wrap a painting up for transport, but it's same-day delivery via car. There's no need to go overboard with packing. And then I got myself ready, hopped into my high school friend's car so we could finally go home. We stopped by a Japanese restaurant on the way to pick up my other friend, and the food was great, as always. The place was very aesthetically pleasing too. And then we sped through the expressway where, miraculously, there wasn't much traffic considering how close it was to Christmas. But boy oh boy, did our luck sure run out pretty fast. Honestly, my journey back to my hometown deserves its own video, but I unfortunately don't have enough clips for it, so I'm just going to retell it as I remember it. Before we could even enter the port, there was a line for cars wanting to get into the port, and there's a separate line inside the port, so you have to line up to get to line up, if that makes sense. And that line stretched on for 2 kilometers. Like, it was so bad it got on national news. I mean, we had a car, so we're still quite lucky because at least we can sit down and stuff. Because the passengers who had to line up on foot had it way worse. You're not allowed to leave the line, can't buy yourself snacks, because otherwise someone else will take your place. I mean, I've been there, I've experienced that. But like, there was a time during the wait when I fell asleep. And when I woke up after 2 hours, I found out that we moved a mere 400 meters. And there were also a bunch of port officials who were taking bribes. Like, if you pay them 3,000 pesos, they'll let you sneak in. Well, I'm just glad I got here. I got to celebrate Christmas with my family. I got to go to the beach. I went to a school reunion where I ingested all types of soda known to man. And it's honestly just a fun time overall. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a great time. Again, Happy New Year. I don't really have any New Year's resolutions, but I do hope I get to upload more videos, so there's that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in 2025. Bye!